Section 3.4, Summaries for Skewed Distributions. The keyword here being skewed. Now in 3.1 and 3.2, we talked about mean being a measurement for center and standard deviation being a measure for spread. However, these are not good measurements for us whenever we are talking about skewed data. Those only really work for symmetric data. So now if we're looking at skewed data, we would prefer to look at the median as our center value. It's the value that is right in the middle if you sort your data from the smallest to the largest. So this is better than the mean if we're talking about skewed data. So we can take a look at these images. Notice if your data is symmetric, both your mean and your median fall right in the center. Now, large values that fall out here and that would make a distribution right skewed, what that does is that pulls your mean up with it. It doesn't affect the median as much though, so the median would be preferred there. And the same thing happens with these very small values that would cause left skew. It would pull your mean down with it, but it wouldn't affect the median as much. To calculate the median is not very hard to do if you're doing it by hand and with a small data set. All you have to do is get your data in order from smallest to largest and basically work your way in until you find the very center value. So this part A, I can just start picking values off of either end and to work my way to the center. And I find that 9 is in the very center, so 9 is my median. Now for B, I start the same way. I'm going to just pick values off one at a time from either end. However, here I don't have a single value in the middle. I actually have two values sharing the middle. So if that happens, if you have an even number of values, this will happen to you. What you should do is you should average those two center values. So I'm going to average these numbers. Give me 21 over 2, which is 10.5, and that would then be my median. So it's not too hard to do by hand, but only if you have a small amount of data values. If I had hundreds of those numbers, I certainly wouldn't want to do this. So if you are in charge of finding the median, you can do that in StatCrunch, and it's under Summary Stats, the same place where you would find the mean and the standard deviation. Okay, so if you've determined that your data is skewed and you've decided that you would prefer to use the median to describe the center, you're also then going to use something other than standard deviation to talk about spread. And instead, what you're going to use is what we call interquartile range. I'm going to give you a little image here for interquartile range. First, we're going to define and show just what are quartiles. So I've got first quartile, second quartile, and third quartile written down here. This is where they would fall. So like this would be Q1. This would be Q2. Quartile 2 is just another word for the median. So again, it's right in the center. And Q3 would be up here. What your quartiles do is it divides your data up into quarters or 25% chunks. So 25% of your data falls in any of these areas. And then what the IQR is the IQR spans from Q1 to Q3. And because of that, you can see that it will include the middle 50% of your data. Then the only other definition down here that we haven't talked about then is range. Range is just when you take your maximum value minus your minimum value. That tells you the range of values that you're talking about. Okay, so let's do an example. We are going to find quartile 1, the median, quartile 3, the IQR, and the range of the following data set. And we're going to do it by hand in this video, and then I will show you how to find those in StatCrunch in a separate video. This data is from a group of 8 children, and these are their heights. Notice we do have a histogram and a dot plot both provided to us. The reason why the histogram is helpful here is because we can see how this data does look a bit right skewed. It's got a bit of a tail off to the right. So median and IQR would be a better choice to talk about the center and the spread of this particular data. Okay, so if I want to calculate the median, I'm going to, instead of marking through my numbers, I'm going to mark below them. I start marking them off from one end to the other. I arrive at these two values in the middle. So the median should be right in the center of those values. I need to average them. I can do that average in my head though. 35, what's right in the center of 53 and a half and 54? Well, that would be 53.75. That would be right here. That's my median. Now I'm going to switch. I'm going to use a different color here. If we were going to find then Q1, I basically do the same process, only I just look at that first half of the data. So I start marking it off, and I quickly arrive at two center values for that one. So my Q1 is whatever value is right in the center there. So that one I might want to do a little bit of work for. I need to average those. Oops, 53 divided by 2. That gives me, if I calculate that out, that gives me 50.5. So that is my Q1, 50.5. And then I do the same thing on the other side for Q3. I start marking in toward the middle. I quickly arrive at two center values here. So my Q3 is going to be right in the center of that. I can do that one again. What's right between 60 and 62? That's 61. So I'm going to mark those up here. I switch back to my blue pen. Okay, so IQR. IQR is simply taking whatever I get for Q3 and subtracting Q1 from it. So 61 minus 50.5 should be 10.5. That is my IQR. That is my measurement for spread of this data. And then the range is taking my highest value, my maximum value of 71, and subtracting my lowest value of 48, and that is 23. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over onto this dot plot. I'm going to mark some of these values. So it looks like our median is at about 53.75. So let's say approximately here might be my median. My Q1 is just right above 50, so right here. My Q3 is at 61. Ooh, Q3. And so my IQR spans from here to here. Now, what I want you to notice is the definition of IQR is the space that holds 50% of your data points. So look carefully here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 data values on the inside, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 data values on the outside of that. So it is holding 50%, the middle half of our data values.